Well, property tax in Canada goes nuts. Like, it's going nuts, the property tax in this country. Wow. We got the Toronto announcement yesterday. Wow. It was something. Hey, 10.5% bump in property tax. Everybody in the city of Toronto. Oh, and by the way, blackmail for the federal government. Oh, federal government, if you don't give us $250 million, we're going to raise it 16%. Like, my God in heaven, is this even a tiny bit rational? I don't get it, but it's happening everywhere. Like Calgary, I think Calgary was 7.8. I mean, it's gone up in Vancouver. It's going up everywhere. Montreal's gone up. Property tax is going up in the Atlantic region. Oh, here's the story of a small town in British Columbia where I have been to this town. Most people have not been to this town, but I have been to this town because, well, who is it? It's Osoyoos. God help anybody who reads that and tries to pronounce it, but because I've been there, I know how to pronounce it. It's Osoyoos. Now, apparently there's some people want to change the pronunciation, but no. I went through the town. My mother is from a town right very close to it called Creston. Everybody in Creston called it Osoyoos, so I'm going to keep calling it Osoyoos. But Osoyoos is the winner. The winner. This year's property tax increase in the small town of Osoyoos, which is actually the only certified desert in Canada, same as Arizona. Osoyoos is a desert climate. 39%. 39% property tax increase? Oh my God, it's just nuts. Now, why is this happening? Well, naturally, all the politicians who are processing these tax increases blame everybody but themselves. They say, no, it's inflation. Inflation is so big, so much inflation, we have to increase the property taxes because all of our expenses have gone up, wages are going up, cost of doing business is going up, cost of providing services going up. It's big inflation, we got to raise everything. Oh, okay. So blame other governments. Another big, endless favorite with all city, all town, all municipal governments blame everybody else. Elizabeth Chow, the mayor of Toronto, is blaming the federal government. Say, federal government, I'm going to put you up for ransom. I'm going to blackmail you. If you don't give me $250 million cash, federal government, like, why are all the provinces paying for Toronto? But anyway, if you're not going to give me $250 million, then I'm going to have to raise property taxes like 16%, maybe more. Yeah, okay. So is it inflation? Sure, some of it's inflation. There's been inflation. We've watched inflation in this country harm us for the last 22 months. We've watched it. But is it just inflation? Or is there a chance that governments in general, all governments in Canada, disintegrate money? Okay, now I know this is a favorite thing. People say, oh yeah, he's going to go off on the governments again. But let's just stop and think for a second. Let's ask real questions. Could there be ways to cut expenses in government? Is there a way that our government, because let's face it, nobody in government ever considers that, ever. Like you don't hear anything out of Olivia Chow saying, let's chop these. You don't hear anything out of the mayors across the country. Let's chop. We got to find a way to save. You never hear that. You don't hear it. So we got to start asking questions. Are these governments performing well? Is there for instance, Crosstown LRT in Toronto that is $1 jillion over budget and may never finish? Like there literally is supposed to be finished 2.5 years ago. There literally is no finish date. Nobody knows. It may never work. It may never get finished. Nobody knows. So how is that for a waste of taxpayers' money? We can keep on going. Why are there all kinds of consultants in all levels of government? Like if we've got big sophisticated governments like City of Toronto, is there need for any consultants? Should there be any contracted out work? And by the way, let me make this clear. Every single person who picks up the garbage, every single healthcare service, every single cop on the street, like all the cops who are out there helping us, looking after us, making sure the city's safe, making sure all these cities are safe. Please, I got no problem with those wages. Absolutely not. But let's start asking better questions like, What about all the people who never leave the building in the police headquarters? What about all the people who are just pushing paper? What about all the people inside of City Hall who just push paper every day? By the way, many of them are probably very necessary, but let's ask this question. In a bunch of governments, all city governments, all across Canada, where things don't work very well in these cities, where it's far from perfect, can anybody explain to me why nobody ever gets fired? Like, why in the world, if you've got a crosstown LRT that's never going to get finished and is $1 jillion over budget, why doesn't anybody get fired? Because I'm going to ask you an honest question. Have you ever heard of a manager? Again, I don't want to attack the people who are doing the work every day, the people who are picking up our garbage. God bless them, okay? But have you ever heard of a manager running a department badly, executing on a project terribly, way over budget ridiculously? Have you ever heard of any manager ever getting fired? Because I haven't. I haven't heard of any department head getting the clipped because they couldn't produce the results they want to. I've never heard of one single person in any city government ever being fired for things going really, really wrong. And we sure as heck see things going really, really wrong, taking really, really long to finish, not being finished properly, being torn up again, fixed again. We see it all the time. Nobody ever loses their job. So can somebody please tell me, are we running these cities and towns and municipalities properly, or is it just disintegration of money? I want to know.